What's up, guys? Happy Saturday. We're in the lab here working. We're watching some college basketball, getting reviews, getting knowledgeable so that we can give you guys the best college basketball content we can, right, Zach?
Yeah. Oh, it's an obsession at this time of year. We're watching as much ball as we possibly can.
It's going to be ball nonstop today. But with that being said, we have to stop watching and record this right now because we got the top 16 revealed today. They came out from the committee with the March Madness. And guess what? There's so much to talk about, Zach.
Yeah, there's a lot. We got to learn how the committee's thinking, and we had some shockers.
There was some moments where Zach and I were sitting there and we're like, what do you mean that's the case? We'll talk about those as we get going. But let's share what the committee's thinking right now, and we'll pull it up. And right here we see the number one overall seed. We'll move our little photo right there so you guys can see it all too. The number one overall seed goes to the Gonzaga Bulldogs. And Zach, I don't think there was much debate in our minds about who's going to be the number one overall seed right there.
No, this one was pretty clear cut.
Now do you want to go in order or do you want to stick in regions here?
We can go in order.
We'll go in order here. All right. So the number two overall seed went to the Auburn Tigers. And this one, again, it was interesting to me listening to the committee talk about where they're placing Auburn. They said it was razor thin between Auburn and Gonzaga, but it was also razor thin between Auburn and Arizona, which tells me that the top three are really compact and congested. It could go any way. If I'm placing money right now, I don't think Gonzaga is the number one overall by the time March starts because of the fact that when they're talking about how close these teams are. Auburn and Arizona have more chances to pick up some impressive wins. And if they pick up an impressive enough win, I think it puts them over Gonzaga.
I agree with that completely. Yeah, Gonzaga just isn't going to have those opportunities coming down the stretch. Even a team like Kansas could hypothetically, even with 4 losses,
if they get hot and
they won out or something like that, you might, just because the amount of quad one wins they would have would be insane.
So that was something that I took away from the bracketology, and I found a really interesting hearing them talk about was how close the top three especially are.
I did too. That was my biggest takeaway from definitely the top line.
And then we go and they mentioned the gap between the 4 and the 3 and sitting at 4 was Kansas. They got the last number one overall seed. That one was interesting again when they were talking about the debate about who fits where in that seed line. They mentioned how Kansas got the 4 because the committee valued Baylor over Kentucky.
Yeah. And they brought up the 14 quad 1 and 2 wins for Kansas, which leads the nation. They said that was a big factor as well.
That was something that they valued the net in this bracketology, which was very apparent in some of the other later picks. But in terms of the 4, Kansas has the head-to-head over Baylor, who is the 5 seed, which put Kansas ahead of them. And I think Kansas convincingly has the head-to-head over Baylor in that one game. Now they play again next weekend in Waco, so we'll see if how that changes things, what difference happens. But right now, Kansas sits there at the 4, and I think deservingly so right now. We drop to the 5, and this is where we had some debate about who deserves to sit at the 5. Zach and I were talking. We thought Kentucky would for sure sit there at the 5.
Yeah, this was like the first time because everything else was kind of normal. We're going through, and they say the 5. We look at you like, whoa,
what's going on here?
And this is when we knew for sure that they valued quad 1 wins because Baylor leads the country in just exclusively quad 1 wins at 9, and so we see that, and that opened our eyes. And I was a little bit shocked still to see Baylor at the 5.
That rattled me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I was thrown off when I saw that, and I was curious. Baylor, they're coming off a loss this week, right? You can talk about the net rankings, but you also got to talk about what you see with your eyes and what you view. And what we viewed this week in their most recent game was a game in which they lost to Texas Tech, and they've lost now twice to Texas Tech on the year.
Yeah, Baylor. I was a little bit just surprised. I thought they'd be more in the 6-7 region, just because they have dropped. I think they're like 5-4 in their last 9. So it was a little bit surprising for sure.
Well, Zach and I's instant reaction when we saw the 5 seed sitting there is I said to Zach, I'm like, are we going to see my prediction of a 1 seed and 2 seeds from the Big 12 come true?
Yeah, I thought it was going to come true for a second. I really did.
We thought about it, and we'll keep moving. We'll talk about how the 2 seeds played out as we go now to Kentucky sitting there at the 6, and I think Kentucky should be the 5. Right now.
I do too right now. Like I do respect, and I get their justification for putting Baylor there. Like their resume isn't fantastic, but I still thought Kentucky deserved it just a little bit over Baylor.
I think eye test, though, for me, like eye test wise, Kentucky's a better team.
I'm with you on that.
You can't just talk quad one in net rankings here. You got to talk with your eyes and see what you see. And although Kentucky also, as I mentioned, Baylor's lost, Kentucky's coming off a loss. Kentucky's just looked better this year.
I would agree. They have, especially as of late, looked a lot better.
So that's the contention there. And then sitting there at 7 with Purdue, a team who we've seen quite often in Joe Lunardi's brackets up till last week was always at a 1. And now they're sitting here at a 7 as one of the last 2 seeds.
Yeah, Purdue's kind of fallen down. Like they do have 4 losses now, but man, I guess all these other teams, I guess, do have a little better resumes than them, but a little tough to see Purdue at the 7.
That's definitely a hurt for the Big Ten there to see their top team or their quote unquote top team is at a 7. It doesn't bode well for the other Big Ten teams as the tournament gets going compared to a Big 12 right now. But we'll see. And then you jump over to the 8 and you see the first ACC team in Duke sitting there at the 8. And this was one where Zach and I were talking and we're like, Duke or Tech right here. I thought maybe Tech sneaks in right here ahead of Duke, but I think part of it is the brand of Duke gets it right there. Part of it's also Duke has their win over Gonzaga. They have some big wins.
Yeah, I guess it just came down to the win against Gonzaga, and they kind of mentioned that. That's why they went over Nova for the 8 seed or the 8 spot. But I think I'm with Will here. I think Tech deserved this even a little more. But I don't know the amount of quad 1 wins Duke has or anything like that. But just because it looked like they were really basing it off of quad 1 wins, it just seemed like a big basis for their reasoning. Yeah, I don't know. Duke at the 8, it's okay. I don't really like it that much though.
You don't love it.
I don't love it. Like I think they're a 3 seed team.
Duke is 5-1 right now in quad 1 games, it says.
Okay. Well,
so
that's
5-1, 4-2 in quad 2, and 5-1 in quad 3 right now. That's what I think is what it says.
Okay.
That's just judging off of my phone, so I'm not 100% certain. But Duke, they have a resume to compete. I think Zach and I both agree. We think they sit on the 3 line. Maybe a little bit higher than I would have put them. But at the same time, like
it's understandable.
It's understandable. They're leading the ACC right now. We've talked about how the ACC is not a good league this year, but there's still the ACC is still one of the better leagues in basketball. So we'll give Duke their credit there. But now again, we get to the 3 line, and I thought for sure coming out of the commercial. Is this one? No, they didn't go to commercial, but they rolled into the. Did they go to commercial?
Yeah, the commercial.
Yeah. So coming out of the commercial break, I thought the first name we're going to hear is Texas Tech. I thought there's no way Tech drops below the first 3 seed. And then they show Nova.
Nova was our first one, I think, where we're like, whoa, man.
After the Baylor. We had the Baylor.
The Baylor was the first big one. And then Nova on the 3 line. I thought we both agree. We think Nova is a bottom 3 line team. Like in the 11-12 spot. To see them at the 9, I was a bit shocked because Nova, they had the big Providence win last week.
Yes.
And they have played a very, very tough schedule. Their non-con was tough. Their Big East is pretty tough. But they've lost a majority of their tough games.
Yeah.
They've won some. I mean, obviously they win a lot of games in the Big East, but
that's in the Big East.
But all their non-con games that were big time games, I'm pretty sure they lost all of them.
Yeah, they haven't looked good.
And so I would have liked to see them at a low 3, but I guess they're happy. They do have quite a bit of quad 1 and 2, I guess, is what it took for them.
I mean, I've shared, I don't want to sit here and beat on Nova. I've shared my takes on them enough times. I just don't think they're the 9th team, especially looking at who's behind them. I think Tech is better than them, and I think Tennessee is better than them right off the bat.
Yeah.
So that's just how I feel. There's not much else to it. I question what Nova's going to be able to do in March, and them sitting there ahead of those 2 teams who I think have played better basketball, especially as of late. I don't know. Anyways, we get to the 10 seed, and that's where we finally get to see the Texas Tech Red Ragers.
This is a fair spot for them. We'd like to see them maybe 1 or 2 spots higher, but Texas Tech, the way they're playing, they could keep shooting up, and I could see them easily getting a 2 seed.
I could see them climbing up, for sure, especially with what's happening with Baylor right now. I could see them climbing into the 2 seed line and Baylor falling into the 3, maybe even the 4 seed line when all said and done at some point. We'll see what happens with the Red Raiders, though. We love the Red Raiders here on this, and I think even here, Texas Tech still looks really good in the Midwest region.
They do.
I think they're better than UCLA right there. I think they put up a good game against Purdue, and I think they're better than Auburn.
I do too. I think Tech might be the best team in the Midwest region.
So they're a good team right there. The Red Raiders, although they sit there as a 3, are very dangerous in this Midwest region. And then we jump now to the 11 seed, and we get the Tennessee Volunteers, who've been playing some great basketball, especially coming off their win against Kentucky on Tuesday.
Yeah, Tennessee might be like the second hottest team in college basketball right now behind Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have not lost a 9 out of 10 now. I mean, they're beating good teams left and right in the SEC. Big game today against Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee is deserving of this right here. The way they've been playing, they deserve this 3 seed.
So that brings us now to the 12 seed, and Zach's instant reaction when he saw the 12 was he was surprised.
I was a little surprised.
The Illini sit there on the 3 line with the last 3 seed, but they sit there as the 12th overall seed.
I was hype. I got off the couch. I was like, let's go. I wasn't expecting I thought it was a chance because we do have a pretty good resume, but it's not an insane resume. So I feel kind of, I don't know. I feel like I'm happy about us getting the 3.
You feel like you got to go. I was thinking you might be on the 4 line somewhere. I was honestly asking Zach and I were having a debate about whether the committee would have them in the top 16 a little bit at this before this started. We talked a little bit about maybe they don't.
Yeah, I definitely thought they'd respect this a fair bit. I didn't think the 3 though. The 4 felt pretty solid to me.
The 4 felt solid, and to me there was a slight chance they put you on a 5 line and you're not quite in the top 16. But they put you at a 3, which is great for you guys. I think that's a very good rating for Illinois. That's a very Illinois should be thrilled with that one. Similar to kind of what I talked about how Villanova should be thrilled with where they were. Duke should be thrilled with where they were. You guys should be very happy. You're in a good spot. You got some games to keep climbing up the rankings. Well, this is a good starting spot for Illinois.
It is. It's great.
Which brings us now to the 13 here, and that gets us to the Wisconsin Badgers, another Big Ten team.
Yeah, they said the difference here between Illinois and Wisconsin, they said it was also another one of the razor thin ones and how they placed the teams. So it just came down to Illinois' head-to-head win against Wisconsin is what the difference was.
The Badgers there, but the Badgers, one thing to realize is the Badgers have a win over they
beat Purdue. I actually was telling Will, I thought they even could be the 8 or 9 team in this thing.
He thought they might get it too.
They might get the last 2 because they have so many good wins on the year.
Yeah, we talk about those quad 1, and you heard them mention quad 1 wins quite often, and that's where they come into play there for Wisconsin. Maybe as a 2 in that sense.
And so they're a good team. 13, that's fair for them, but definitely could have been higher. I definitely could see Wisconsin rising if they continue to, especially if they end up winning like the regular season Big Ten.
Definitely. Now 14 is the UCLA Bruins, and there we see our second Pac-12 team sitting. UCLA was a team that was sitting number 2 in the AP poll at the start of the year. A lot of people were high on UCLA, and now they're sitting here as a 4 seed as the 14th team in the top 16 reveal.
Yeah, and they're not gonna have a crazy amount of chances to rise to like an extremely high seed. I think they'll be happy if you're a UCLA fan being the 3-4 seed line. I think it's a little bit underwhelming for UCLA fans, but I think it's good for what they've done. Their resume doesn't like strike me. I'm not like, whoa, UCLA's done that much this year.
They have a win over Nova.
The win over Nova's clutch. They beat Arizona once. Yeah. That's big. I mean, 1 of 2 losses for Arizona. So that's huge.
But they have a loss to Gonzaga.
Yeah, that wasn't even close. That was blowout city. You can definitely see the gap between. That's earlier in the year, but you can still see the gap between like Gonzaga and some of these other teams.
Yeah, that's something that jumps out. I think entering the year, UCLA would have hoped to have been better than a 14 seed at this point in the year, or 14th overall at this point in the year. But we'll see. Sitting here at 15 though is the Providence Friars, and this was one they talked about on the broadcast a little bit. Yeah,
Providence. I honestly could see Providence being higher than this still. I guess the net has them at 29, but they said this is the one they use the eye test. They were like, we know this is not the 29th best team in the nation. They use the eye test, and I'm with them. Like Providence, they win a bunch of close games, but and I just like seeing Providence as the 4 seed.
Yeah, like it's a little change.
It's a change. Like a lot of these teams are here quite often. Like a good bit of these teams are in this area.
It's some new blood in there, which is nice to see.
It's really nice to see. So I enjoy Providence being there.
Yeah, Providence is 29th right now in the net. They have a conference record of 5-2. There's 6.
They're a good team.
My phone's glitching out here. Sorry, but I was going to read off their net for you, but they're a good team. Their net isn't great, and so they mentioned the eye test and how this is where the eye test comes into play. And again, we referenced the eye test here, but you go look at some of the other teams we talked about earlier, and I question how much the eye test is valued more than the net.
Yeah, I kind of question it too at times.
So it contradicted itself a little bit in that sense. But
I knew they were gonna have to use the eye test big time for Providence, because Providence has been so low in the net, because their losses have their 2 big losses were blowouts, and then they lost the close one to Villanova the other day, and then Wisconsin. I thought they were gonna be the other one where they used the eye test, and I thought because Wisconsin's net is lower than it should be too. I thought so. But still good to see Providence there. Happy about that.
And we'll rattle off the 16 seed here, which is the Texas Longhorns. Texas is a team that Zach and I have both been talking about on our past few bracketologies. It's a team that we like right now and who's been gelling.
Oh, they're playing great basketball right now. Texas, and if you just keep racking up wins in the Big 12, it's just gonna be a bunch of quad 1 games.
Yeah,
quad 1 and 2, and if they can finish out the year strong, we might see this Texas team much higher.
But we might see them climb up for sure.
They're playing much better, and they're playing Texas and Texas Tech, or playing Texas Tech right now. We're going to check that out as soon as we're done recording, which is going to be fun to watch. But yeah, Texas in this on the last seed in. I said Bama was close.
Yeah, that was the one that I was going to mention that quickly right at the end here. They mentioned that there was 3 teams that were competing for the last seed here. It was Texas. Who were the other teams?
They said Bama. They said Houston. And they said, cannot remember the other team.
Yeah, but they met the Bama name being there was really fascinating to me. Our Trey was beside us as we were watching that, and he said Bama's not a team that deserves to be in there. And I said to him, they have the quality of wins to do it. They have wins to deserve to be there. They have a win over Gonzaga, the number 1 overall seed. Your 2 losses for Gonzaga are Duke in their loss to Alabama, and Bama won in Seattle, which is a good team. I think if you're an Alabama fan, you like hearing that. If you play well, they have a good chance today against Kentucky. They go beat Kentucky and they play some good basketball. I could see Bama making their way to a 3 line.
Yeah, it shows they value right now. They're valuing great wins versus bad losses, which I like to see. I honestly, I generally want to reward. I like when they reward great wins over bad losses. So, and that's what makes, if you're a Rutgers fan, I think you feel pretty good about that too.
Yeah.
Because Rutgers have a similar type of resume as Bama does. Obviously a lot lower in the seed line, but still a similar resume and a similar thought process. So a Rutgers fan, I think you can look at that positively, and they're rewarding great wins.
Well, that's what we take away right now. The other big thing we'll quickly mention is the fact that they're taking away they have a lot of faith in the Big 12 right now. We see 4 Big 12. The quarter of this top 16 is Big 12, which I think has been something that has been preached by a lot of people, and the committee's reflecting it through this top 16, because the Big 12 is a great conference and the best conference in college basketball right now because of the number of they're dominating this top 16 right now.
Yeah. Before we end, you want to see what our, give a pick on our best region we think are as of right now?
Yeah. Right now, I think the most even region is I think the Midwest region is a good region right there. I think it's going to be so interesting to see what happens out of there. I think anyone in the East can win that region right there, sitting down there. I think you could tell me Kansas, Kentucky, not Nova, but Kansas, Kentucky, or Wisconsin right there wins that region. I'd say yeah. But I think just the West is such a good region right there, man. I think the West is the best region. I could legitimately see anyone win that region.
The West is really good. I like the West. I like Illinois being in the West, other than having to play Gonzaga. We've had for Illinois. I think the West is jumping out to me the most right now as well. The South, I feel like there's anyone's game in the South. Too.
Yeah.
Like Arizona, Baylor could still make a run. Tennessee, that's a competitive comp. For me right now, I think the Midwest is the toughest just because I love Purdue and Texas Tech so much. And them two being in the same region would be big.
Be a dandy.
It would be.
That'd be a dandy. All right, guys, that's a top 16 reveal. They've set that up this morning and announced it on CBS. We thank March Madness, their Twitter page for that photo. That's where we got that picture to share with you guys. But there's so much to talk about. And we're so excited. We want to hear what you guys think. Who are the snubs that you guys thought? What went? There's so much debate. Who's seated wrong here in this right now? Let's hear what you think. What do you think is going to play out at the end? Like put a like in us and then comment, because we want to hear. There's a lot to debate right now, and let's get it going.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious what you guys have to think about this, because there's some things that I'm like 50-50 on. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but I don't get it. And so I would love to hear some of your guys' opinions, and if these are your favorite teams, and let us know about how you feel about it and everything. But yeah, we appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys. We'll take care. We'll talk to you Tuesday. We got to get back to the lab, get watching some basketball, get scouting so that our Tuesday bracketology can be the best it can be. We'll see you guys Tuesday.
See you.
Take care.